You can't carry yesterday's trading into today or the next day or the following week, because you're going to lose a lot and then you're going to get down on yourself. And then it's like a self-reinforcing cycle. If you don't stop it as quickly as possible, you aren't going to make it.
Hello everybody, this is Anthony for Investors Underground. In July 2023, Ed Berry set out on a very public trading challenge. The goal was to grow his account value 4x in 4 months. And Ed did so publicly. At the end of every trading day, he posted his P&L for the whole world to follow. Starting with $25,000, it took Ed just 46 trading days to reach $100,000. In this episode, you'll hear me interview Ed on 2 separate occasions. The first was on day 32 of his challenge, and the second was once he was completed and grew his account 4x in 4 months. My goal was to document and learn about what it was like for Ed to trade during this period of time. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hello Ed, thank you for being here and taking the time to speak with me today.
Hey, Anthony. Yeah, really good to see you again, too, and excited to get into this discussion.
Yeah, Ed, I've been watching you and your 4x in 4 months goal every day now, and it's really impressive how you're trading. The first question I had, if that's okay, is, what inspired this goal? How did this come about?
Yeah, so I had done a few webinars for Investors Underground, and I was sharing trades in them and kind of walking through them. And there are a lot of small gains that I take, and they add up over time, but I don't feel like necessarily everybody in those webinars was kind of seeing just how much they added up. And I didn't really want to discuss too much about how much money I've made, or get too much into bigger numbers, longer term numbers. I was just kind of trying to share the trades, but I felt like it would be useful to illustrate just what this style of trading can do, especially for a small account, because I realized before I started that I don't really use a whole lot more than $25,000 for a lot of my positions, at least on the long side. It makes a difference on shorts, but for the most part, I was able to take most of my normal trades like I usually do without too much of a hindrance by having a smaller account. It's ended up working out a little better than I thought. I thought it would be harder, like that 25 to 40 or $50,000 progress. I kind of thought would take longer, and it really didn't. So I probably gave myself more time than I needed, but just putting myself out there and sharing what's been working for me has led to like a ton of really positive feedback and a lot of really nice words from other traders, and it's been a lot of fun.
And it's been very inspiring to see. One of the things that I think is really interesting is just how you keep your losers very small compared to your larger winners. And that's one of the topics I definitely wanted to touch on a little bit later. But overall, yeah, absolutely. I wanted to congratulate you on being able to effectively at this point double your account size since you started. So that's got to feel pretty great.
Yeah, yeah, it's going really well. I was just chatting with somebody on Twitter the other day about this too. It hasn't been for nothing. All the really nice comments and encouragement that I've received on Twitter, it's definitely boosted my confidence a bit, and that makes a difference. I mean, I'm trading about as well as I have all year over the last couple of months. I think June and July were 2 of my better months. Right now, August is looking like it's probably going to be my best month of the year. So some of that is the market. Some of that is the stocks I like to trade, are just moving the way that I like them to. But I think it absolutely has something to do with just an elevated level of confidence that I have going into every day.
I wanted to talk about sort of the way that you trade. I know we've done a longer interview, and viewers can go find that and watch that. I highly recommend that. But what type of stocks are you looking to trade, and what type of setups do you do very well at?
When OTCs weren't working well in June of 2021, I just kind of took what I was doing with those and applied it to under a dollar listed stocks. And it turned out that they move in a similar way. The risk reward calculations are the same. And I think the biggest thing that's similar with them is that I can get very close to perfect entries a lot of times. So I can keep really tight stops. It doesn't work like that in other higher price ranges. You're not going to top tick or bottom tick your entries and exits all the time. Um, but on these stocks, you can get pretty close a lot of times. So that's been a big part of how I'm able to keep my losses small. It's also just experience and practice, doing this every day for the last couple of years. I've gotten a lot better at knowing. You'll see in my P&L sometimes there'll be a stock that's like minus plus or minus like $10 or $20. Usually that's because I tried it once or twice and I didn't like it, and then I just take it off my screen. I just don't trade stocks that don't fit my style.
And so, are you worried at all about what the larger moves in the market are since you're just looking at the sub penny stocks? For example, do you really care about earnings reports for some of the large cap names or whether the Fed plans to raise interest rates for another quarter or anything like that? Or are you pretty insulated from all of that?
Yeah, it doesn't make a big difference. I honestly don't know what the S&P did today or the Nasdaq. I used to keep it on my screen. I used to keep the cues on my screen all the time. Occasionally, it makes a difference what the broader market is doing. Like when the Fed was moving the market at 2 o'clock in the afternoon with the FOMC minutes every time they came out, those had an impact. Occasionally, was just drag everything down, or occasionally in the same sector, if there's a big mover, that makes a difference. If a sector is hot, then these cheaper stocks that are in that sector will move more. They may, have more sustained moves, maybe stronger or go further than I anticipate because of that. But in general, I don't really pay a ton of attention to what's going on in the broader market on most days because it just doesn't have a big impact on what I'm doing.
Okay. And so for your Forex in 4 months goal, so you started with 25,000, and is there any particular importance to the broker that you're using or your stock scanner? What tools are imperative that you use in order to find your stocks and to trade them with as much success as you do?
Yeah, the broker I use is TD Ameritrade. I think it's the best one for doing this. And really, it is pretty much a necessity, at least to trade the way that I do, to be trading without commissions, because I'm going through a lot of shares on most days, and the commissions add up really fast when you do that on other brokerages. So, TD Ameritrade, E-Trade. There used to be a couple others, but TradeStation was one, and they started recently charging commissions for under $1 stocks. I have a feeling it may have had something to do with me. And so really it's just those two that are pretty effective for this now. Other than that, I just use scans. And I have a pretty simple scanner that I set up in there, just to pick up the highest volume stocks in this price range. And then I use the scanner that Max put in IU for the most active tickers to catch the tape burst and see new tickers when something pops up midday, which is super useful for that. Because a lot of the times my scanner finds everything in pre-market, and then I have an idea of what I traded the previous day. But then something comes out, 10, 11, 12 o'clock with news or something like that. I'm not going to see it hit the scanner right away because I have the scanner sorted by volume typically. So because I want to be trading the highest volume stocks, but sometimes something comes along midday, and that's really been very useful to catch those. So I don't think I miss too much these days now that I have that on my screen at the same time.
That's incredible. You're using the IU scanner.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a ton of good tools in IU. Max is awesome. He's put together a whole suite of tools that you can use that really make a lot of other software unnecessary. Like I had already re-upped on my yearly subscription for scans somewhere around the end of last year, but I probably won't do it again, to be honest, because I don't need to. I'll probably just use both of Max's scanners to catch all the same stocks and save myself a few bucks that way. So yeah, I think you can really get everything you need to trade effectively right in the room.
And one of the things that I also think is pretty incredible is your risk management, Ed. I've noticed that your losers, you might have a loser that's maybe $70, 100, 200, maybe even $300 on some of your tickers, but your big winners are significantly larger than that. I'm talking 2x, 5x, 10x the size of your losers. How are you able to keep your losers so small and your big profitable trades so much bigger than that?
Yeah, that's a big part of my success over the last couple of years, especially more recently in the last year. I've I used to, and I still fall victim to this once in a while, just wanting to trade everything or just going and trying like 10 different tickers. But I very quickly decide which ones are going to make me my money for the day, and I try to just stick to those. So stock selection has been a huge asset. I mean, it makes such a big difference. It's not necessarily always how you're trading, but what you're trading. If you're trading the wrong tickers, you're going to get yourself into trouble. You're going to waste your time and mental capital and take losses. And if you're just trading the right tickers and you're on the right side and have the right bias on the right ticker, you have a lot of room for error. There's plenty of times where I make a lot of mistakes on a ticker throughout the day. I might be in and out a dozen times, and maybe six or seven of those are actually bad trades, but the other ones make up for the bad decisions and then a lot more too, because just having the right bias on the right stock, it makes it a lot harder to lose when you're kind of going with the trend on the right tickers. So that's um, that's how I end up doing that. You'll see those smaller numbers on my P&L, and like I said, it's typically just because I traded it once or twice and decided it wasn't the right one for that day, so I just leave it alone.
That's interesting. How do you decide whether you're going to trade a stock one more time or whether to just cut it for a day? And how do you develop your bias in any given direction, long or short?
It's a combination of what I see in the tape and the level two, and then also the chart. I'd say it's like a multi-level process. And in the beginning of the day, I'll take a look at the daily chart and then maybe some bigger time frames like 5 or 15 minute charts and give myself an initial bias of which direction I think is the trend and where I expect the stock to go. And then I'll kind of adjust after the open. I'll adjust based on what I see in the price action or what I see on the level two. I mean, if you just see really big bids or really big sellers coming in and having big impact on the price, just because something is set up really well, it doesn't always matter. This just happened the other day on TTOO. I think I put this in my watch list, and it was right. The daily chart looked really nice for a breakout, but I've been watching this stock pretty actively for the last several days, and I just felt like most likely this big gap up is just going to get sold into really heavily at the open, and that's exactly what it did. And it did end up recovering pretty nicely after that, but it's a mix, you know. Sometimes the daily chart uh, absolutely works out. Sometimes the setup that I see on the bigger time frame totally works, and you just kind of follow that trend all day. And those are some of my better days. So yeah, I have an initial thesis early in the day, but I'm very adaptable, and I'm trading really short term anyway. So I don't even necessarily have to be right on the overall trend to pick the correct short term, price move. So
Is there anything in particular that you're looking for to see on level two or the time and sales and executions that really makes you decide whether you want to get into a trade or to even exit a trade?
yeah, I don't know how easy it might be to describe exactly what I'm looking for, which is why I try to go through the trade videos in the webinars rather than just share charts, because I don't think my charts really explain my thought process very well. At times, I might just jump in front of a big bidder or seller, depending on which side I'm trying to be on. And a lot of times you can see that it's not always hidden size on these. Sometimes there's just a massive buyer or seller, and they're just out there for you to see. So you could just jump in front of them and just use them as your risk. And a lot of times to generate pretty easy trades just by doing that. Other times it's more subtle. and there is hidden size, and I'm watching and just waiting to pick up on where that hidden size is. And that's a lot harder to explain, other than just kind of watching the tape and pointing out where I think those turning points are. And a lot of my trades do come from that. Unfortunately, it's not always obvious. Like a lot of my trades, especially this summer, have not been really clear technical patterns. Like I trade a lot of triangles and wedges when they're working. And sometimes that definitely still works. And very basic support and resistance level breaks definitely work sometimes. But a lot of other days, like today was one of those days where I just grinded out a few hundred here, a few hundred there, and it added up to like $1,400. Most of that was just instinctive trading based on what I saw in the box. Yeah, so it wasn't necessarily um, really well thought out setups or anything that was obvious. Although there were a couple of those, and I totally botched them, this morning. So yeah, not my best stuff today, but still worked out pretty well. Relying pretty heavily on just reading the tape and trading off of my instinct based on experience.
Ed, I think your style is one that really lends itself to being seen live. So, would it be possible for you to go through one of your trades?
Yeah, sure. So we have a clip that you can share of the most recent webinar that I did a couple weeks ago reviewing the month of July. And this clip is a long trade in GOEV from earlier on in the month of July. This one was kind of mid-range early on in the day, although you get bigger moves near the open a lot of times. So, it kind of had big run up, big drop, just consolidating right in the middle here. It could definitely go pretty strongly in either direction at only, 20 after 10. And this one does end up having, I think, a little bit stronger move with a little bit more volume, and it runs a little further than the last one. So just consolidating right around this mid-range. Like if it breaks above this level right here, just above VWAP, good chance it pushes over 57, and that's what I'm looking for. So I haven't taken any just yet, but those bids start to firm up, and I see it kind of like a flurry of volume there, and I'm hitting buy as soon as I start to see all those prints coming through. And I get 18,000 here again from 565. So I started the month when I was at 25K with with all 5,000 share orders, and then I increased it to 6, and then on big days I've moved up to like 7 or 8. So this one's pushing up there. 576 is not too far off where most of the highs, most of the volume has been. It only kind of touched 58 real quickly. So as soon as it starts to look weak, I'm starting to sell here. I think I end up getting all out in the 573s. Yeah, I'm all out there. And then it comes back down. Bids drop back down to like 57. Yeah, 569s. And that was the end of the move. And then it consolidated for a while, and the offers came back down. And I think I may have even taken it long again. But that's the concept, right? Like I saw the breaking out of the consolidation, sell it into the rip as soon as it starts to look weak, and then just wait for those sellers to come back down, consolidate again. And then I might go long again for another break, to new highs or something.
Whether you're looking for new and innovative trading tools, connecting with other traders, or expanding your playbook, Investors Underground has something to offer traders at all levels. You'll have access to courses and mentors to learn from, some of the best technology available for scanning stocks and breaking news, and access to the chat rooms where you'll find a vibrant community of focused traders who share their trading ideas in real time every single day. You'll also have access to Nate's morning broadcast, the midweek study session with Sam, webinars including the one we featured with Ed in this interview, moderator watch lists, and all the other resources that Investors Underground has to offer. Listeners of the podcast can access special deals at investorsunderground.com/YouTube. And now, back to our interview with Ed Berry. Thank you so much for recording that webinar. I know IU members, myself included, had a lot of learning and valuable lessons that they were able to take away from watching the way that you trade. So thank you for that. One of the questions that I had for you is, how do you decide whether you're going to stop trading even when you're profitable so that you don't sort of run the risk of over trading? When do you know when to stop on either a ticker or for the day?
A lot of days I will take off a couple hours in the middle of the day because I just know that I'm gonna go through a lot of trades and probably not add any meaningful amount of money to my P&L. That's something, it's hard. I struggle with that because my style of trading really lends itself to over trading. It's so easy to just sit here and think you're going to add 50, 50, 50, 100, 50, 100. And you just do that. Some days you can do that all day long and your P&L just keeps growing. And then other days I sit here and just spin my wheels for an hour or two and I get frustrated and then I trade poorly in the afternoon and it kind of has an impact. I mean, you can only do that for so it wears down your mental capital. You just kind of get exhausted from doing it over and over, taking so many trades. So I tend to do a lot better when I get away from the office, or even better, just get away from the house entirely and go to the gym or run errands in the middle of the day, completely clear my head, and not think too much about trading, and then get back to it maybe 2:30 and finish out the day. Um, and then as far as ticker specific, it's just a matter of trading it one or two times. More often than not, it's a lot of times it's once. I'll take a position, or I'll try to take a position, and I'll try to go for like 15 or 20,000 shares and get like 500, and then all the offers just scatter, and then I realize, okay, that one's way too thin. Sometimes that's obvious before I even click the buy or sell button, but other times I feel like it looks like the offer is there or the shares are there and they're just not, or it just trades in a way that I don't like. And, or if I take a loss real quick and I feel like I was absolutely fooled and didn't see it clearly, then maybe I'll just take that off my screen. There's a lot of reasons why I take things off my screen, but typically it only takes a few trades for me to figure that out. Every once in a while, I get stubborn and I'll take 20, 15 or 20 tries at something before I realize I've really just wasted a bunch of time and money doing that. And I missed opportunities elsewhere because there's usually something else that's better. There's usually a better ticker that I should have been trading. And if there's not, then that's a really good time to just walk away. So yeah, it's kind of situational. It's ticker to ticker. It depends on the day and depends on the stock. But uh, like I said, that's a big improvement I've made over the last year or so is knowing when to do that and knowing when I'm just clicking buttons and over trading and when I'm actually adding and being productive. Sometimes it's a fine line for me, the style of trading that I employ. But yeah, that's it. It comes with practice, and you just start to get a feel for when you're just wasting time and when it's time to just walk away, or when you're just so frustrated that you're just going to make bad decisions and it's time to walk away. Yeah, that's been a big strength for me this year.
And how do you think about your exit for a loss? So, in order to sort of control your losing trades, are you setting a stop loss at a certain point, at a price, or is it sort of a mental stop loss? And does this happen before you enter the trade, or do you sometimes just exit the trade based on the behavior once you're already in it? How do you think about all of that?
So I don't use hard stops at all, unless I have a position on, typically a short, and I just want to walk away for a little bit. Because sometimes those take longer to develop, and sometimes I feel really confident that I have the right entry, so I'll let them go. And I'm better off not sitting there watching every tick. And on those instances, I might use a hard stop and just let the broker take me out if I'm wrong. But more often than not, they're mental stops, and I just have an idea in my head of what level I was risking off of before I entered the trade, typically. Um, and if that holds and the trade starts to go in my favor, then I just look for signs of weakness where I think that, or strength, depending on which side of it I'm on. But then I'd kind of just go based on feel when I think that the move is over. And typically I enter and exit with multiple orders. So I kind of scale in and scale out based on how I'm feeling that the trade is going, or if it's hitting a level that is an obvious support or resistance that makes sense to cover into. So it's once again, it's kind of case by case, ticker by ticker, and it depends on the specific trade. But uh, the vast majority of the time, my entries are very specific based off of where I feel like that pivot point is that I want to be involved. And then most of my exits are based on feel and what I'm seeing on the level two, or occasionally when I'm really right and something goes really in my favor, then it's just wherever I see a level on the chart that makes the most sense.
And do you ever feel pressure to trade every single day in order to meet your goal of 4x in 4 months?
Honestly, I haven't felt a lot of pressure to reach that 100K since the first couple of weeks. I was only a little nervous the first couple of days because I drew my account all the way down to exactly 25K. So if I had a bad day, I was going to be in trouble going under PDT. But now, I after today, I think I'm pushing maybe just a little over 80K in the account, and I have more than 2 months left to get there. So I'm not feeling a lot of pressure like I'm not going to make it. But I do feel pressure to trade. It's really hard to walk away knowing that there's most of the time there's an opportunity to make money. And it seems like every time I go to the gym in the middle of the day, I miss something. There's always a good opportunity while I was gone. And if I stayed and didn't go to the gym, it would have been nothing. It just seems to be the way it works out all the time. So yeah, it's tough to walk away, and I have a hard time taking time off too. I mean, I was just on vacation last week with my family, and I still traded the first hour, hour and a half every day that we were there because it paid for the trip and more than that actually. And it's yeah, I struggle with taking time off knowing that I'm making no money, and if I was working, I would be making money. So that's one of the downsides to being green all the time. Is that I know that when I take a day off, I have an idea in my head of just how much that costs, and usually I don't want to do it.
Has your approach changed since your account has grown? Have you been tempted to trade more shares or trade larger?
A little. I've scaled up a little from where I started at 25K, but at this point, I'm pretty much trading like I normally would. Um, Most of my decision making on sizing comes down to stock specific and how the market for these stocks has been lately. Like if I'm right now, I'm in the middle of a pretty good month, so I'll take more shares because things are going my way. I'm seeing things well and I'm trading well. So I'll try to push that as much as I can when I have it. And when things are slower, I try to scale it back a little bit. But account size doesn't really have a huge impact on that, other than shorts from time to time. Every once in a while, a market comes around, and it hasn't been recently. I've been taking a lot more longs than shorts recently, but there's been a few times this year where I ran out of buying power because I wanted to be full size short, like two tickers at the same time, and I just maxed out. So every once in a while that occurs, but it's unusual, and especially right now, it's almost irrelevant. My account size doesn't even matter right now. It's for the longs. I'm never going to take 60, 70,000 shares at a time to scalp these stocks because it's not scalping when you do that, because then to exit that position, you're moving the price a lot of times. So you definitely can take bigger size. It's just it changes the trade. It has to be much more of a bigger picture trade to take that kind of size. And I see Nate do it all the time, and I still can't get it right. You know, he takes a lot bigger size than I do on these stocks, and he's really good, and he gets it right more often than not. So, but for me, yeah, my size is more dependent on those two things, and right now it's pretty much whatever I want it to be. It's wherever I feel comfortable, and the account size hasn't really held me back.
Have there been any unforeseen challenges or any setbacks that you feel you've faced so far in trying to 4x your account?
So there was times where I wanted to take bigger size short a couple of times in the beginning, and I was limited because with $25,000 you can only take 10,000 shares short because of the 250 rule. Um, but other than that, the only thing that's really kind of been on my mind while I'm trading is occasionally I won't take a trade. And this is probably a positive thing. I won't take a trade because it's risky and kind of stupid, and I don't want it to show up in my P&L at the end of the day because I know I'm going to put it on Twitter. And it's actually kept me out of trouble a few times where I think, do I really want to do this? Because if I blow like $300-400 real fast here, I'm going to have to show that later. So I just don't take it. And more often than not, that's the right decision. So it's not necessarily something that's held me back per se. It's stopped me from doing dumb things a couple of times. So it's actually been useful and helpful.
That's interesting that your transparency is also helping you with your decision making and your accountability.
Yeah, it really has. It all in all, it's been all around way more positive than negative. I mean, it's not just the account size, but the accountability of posting my P&L every day for sure keeps me out of trouble. And then going back and finding time to review so many more of my trades because people ask, they want to see the chart. So I'll go pull it up and I'll go take a look at it and kind of decipher how well I think I traded on it. And going back through the tape and reviewing my own trades has absolutely helped. Um, so yeah, all those things have really been a net positive for me for sure.
So, Ed, we're now at the end of your 4X in 4 months challenge. And I want to say, first of all, congratulations. It's been really fun to watch you trade and post your P&L every single day. So, I just wanted to start with that.
Yeah, thanks. I've gotten a lot of congratulations and a lot of really nice feedback, a lot of really positive comments from people that followed along, and it's been really encouraging and a lot of fun because of that. So, yeah, I really appreciate that. And for anybody who's watching this later, I do really very much appreciate all the people that followed along and had nice things to say all along the way. All that encouragement was a big boost, especially for my trading results, but just as a person, it made me feel really good about doing it, and I'm glad that people got something out of it.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people, especially those who have been following you post your P&L every single day, have been really inspired. And one of the topics I wanted to talk about real quick is about your red days or lack thereof. It was really inspiring to see you just posting so many green days. And, the tickers where you were red, you were just red a small amount. And that continued throughout the whole challenge. You were just so consistent in that way. My question is, are you usually that consistent with your red days? What has been the secret to you constantly staying green on the day?
Yeah, so that is pretty typical for my trading over the last couple of years. I don't really have a lot of red days, and I've gotten better at that too. I used to have more of them, and I realized that once I'm wrong enough times, two, three, four times I get beat on the same stock, I just don't trade it anymore. Or I wait and see if the price action changes, and if I see, a significant change where I feel like I have edge again, then maybe I'll go back and trade it again. But um, yeah, I limit those pretty effectively just by moving on and finding other things to trade. Typically, there's something else. Um, and yeah, limiting losses is absolutely a very important part of my success. I mean, you can't really just dig yourself into a hole deeper and deeper and deeper every day. Because then it takes more and more effort to get out of it. You just have to know when you're beat. You know. So yeah, that's yeah, pretty typical for me though. It took me a little while to figure that out. I used to definitely dig myself into bigger holes early in the morning, especially. I might be wrong and then just keep being wrong a bunch of times till I was several $1,000s red. And yeah, those days suck. So I wanted to not do that anymore. So I just adapted, and yeah, now it's that's pretty typical of those kind of P&Ls for what I'm doing.
For the mornings that you start out red, how many of those days happened in this challenge where you were red on the day for the start and had to bounce back?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I didn't keep track. I know there are some other ways of tracking your P&L that kind of show the fluctuation throughout the day. Um, but I'd say probably at least, 20% of the time, probably at least one day a week. I'm probably red near the open because I'm starting from zero. So, make a mistake on your first trade and you're red. And then from there, it really depends on the reason why I'm red and whether or not I'm trading poorly and I'm making bad decisions, and that's why I'm red, or if I'm making good trades, but they're just going against me, trades that I know have a positive expected value that are going to work more often than not, but they just didn't work the first few times. Then on those instances, I really don't even care about it. Like it doesn't really matter that I'm red. I'm still going to continue taking those trades, and I know that they'll average out, and I'll come out ahead. And then on those days when I'm red because I'm not seeing the market well, or if I'm just really making bad decisions, I mean, no one's immune to that. Everyone has bad days where you come to the market and you just start pushing buttons, and then you look back and you think, why the hell did I take that trade? I do that. I mean, sometimes I have days like that, and then on those days, it's good to just walk away for a little while. Um, Maybe come back and trade the afternoon, or maybe just sit on my hands for a while and just watch until I feel like I'm in sync with the market again, and then start trading again. Being self-aware and understanding when you're in that mode, or when you're trading well, but it's just going against you. That's really important. That's been a big focus for me over the last year or so, is improving that, just executing, because I know that the strategy that I'm employing works. I know that I have an edge, um, but then knowing exactly when to push and when I'm trading poorly, and sizing appropriately for the times where it's really going well, and scaling back when it's not going so well, and knowing when it's time to walk away. All that stuff makes a big difference too. And those are all things I've been working on over the last, especially the last 6 months to a year. Once I really got pretty comfortable with this strategy, then I've started to really perfect it and try to minimize the bad trades, and try to work out as much of the mistakes as I can. I'm not going to eliminate them all, but at least do the best I can. And yeah, you could see in those P&Ls, I've done a pretty good job of keeping the red tickers fairly small. Yeah, so yeah, that's a big part of my success. That's definitely just as important as the green ones, is knowing how to limit the red ones.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that jumped out at me right away. And I know we've talked about that in the past, is just how small those red losses are compared to how big the winners eventually get. The winners significantly outsize the losses. And sort of on that topic, were there any days that you thought in the morning that you were going to end up red, and then you came back either late in the morning or later in the afternoon and really bounced back? Or were there any days at all that you thought you might end up red on the day?
Yeah, I think there was 1 or 2 days in there. A couple of times when I was trading on the road, I was worried about being red just because I knew I wasn't going to be around in the afternoon. So if you dig yourself into a hole in the morning and then you're gone for the rest of the day, you can't get out of it. Yeah, there was a couple of times that was definitely on my mind. And then, yeah, knowing that I was going to be posting that P&L at the end of the day kind of affected my mindset a bit at times, because I didn't want to post a red day because I know that I'm capable of, stringing together really long streaks of green days. But yeah, there were certain days I just kind of walked away or left the day with a minimal amount of green, just because I knew I wasn't trading well, or it just wasn't going the way I anticipated. Um, and that's probably for the best anyway, whether or not it's because I wanted or didn't want to post it, or just recognizing that there was a good chance if I kept pushing buttons, I was going to end the day red. So, good time to walk away.
As you mentioned, you were going to be posting your P&L at the end of every day. So knowing that your P&L was going to be visible to everybody online, what effect did that have on you? And now that you've actually reached your goal, how has that public perception and everyone who's commented, how has that changed how you think about your trading or how people see you as a trader?
So posting P&L every day definitely had the effect of minimizing dumb trades that I took because it's easy when I'm just sitting here by myself and no one else is going to see it. If I do something dumb and blow a bunch of money, um, it's not a big deal. It is, and I shouldn't do it. And I want to eliminate that kind of trading. But if I know I'm going to be posting at the end of the day and I don't really want to have to explain why I took that big loss, then it's an incentive to just not take the trade that's, exposes me to a bigger loss, riskier trade. So I just didn't take any of those for all that time. And it worked out really well, actually. Like I said, July and August were two of my better months of this entire year. So um, I don't think that's a coincidence necessarily. It helped that the market was favorable during those 2 months, but I think for sure doing the challenge and posting every day um, made an impact on the way I was seeing things and the trades I was taking, and in particular the ones I avoided taking too. So it was definitely a positive thing, having that accountability, which I didn't anticipate. And we might want to talk about this a little bit more. But when I started posting, for whatever reason, it didn't cross my mind that it would get retweeted and so many more people would start to notice and it would get followed. Like I kind of thought it was going to be a smaller thing and it would just be like people in the room would notice. And I definitely got more attention than I anticipated. So especially as that continued to grow too, I realized that there was more and more eyes on it. I was like, well, yeah, I definitely don't want to do that. Don't want to take that trade. Like I don't want to have to post that trade or that loss. So yeah, I mean, it worked. Accountability is good in a lot of areas of life. It's good to be accountable, especially when you're trying to build good habits and break bad ones, or incentivize good behavior and minimize bad behavior. So just like anything else, yeah, all that was actually very helpful.
And despite your accountability, transparency, and proven success, have you still encountered critics and doubters of your trading style?
Yeah, a little bit. There were a few people, mostly early on, that were kind of insinuating that I was paper trading or um, I don't know, that I was some type of a blue hat hacker for like I don't know for the exchange or something like that. I don't know. I'm not really that smart. I don't even really understand what they thought I was doing, but um, no, yeah, the reality is that was just my P&L at the end. I was sitting here, snipping an image off my screen and just posting it to Twitter every day. It was nothing more, nothing less than that. So for the most part, though, I got a lot of positive feedback. Most anyone that I'm concerned about on Twitter took me at my word, and I didn't really get questioned too much about it. So yeah, I mean, I guess there's people everywhere, and now I have fake Twitter accounts too. People pretending to be me, and I don't know what they're selling, but that was funny to see. Sometime last week, one of those popped up, but yeah, that's Twitter. I mean, for the most part, I'd say it was like 80 and 90% good. Mostly all positive feedback and encouragement, and not a lot of people, thinking I was lying or trying to cheat them in some way. Um, so yeah, overall, very, very positive and good experience.
One of the things that I noticed was that other really successful traders took note as well and were giving you congratulations. So that was really encouraging to see. What's that been like? Traders that you might have known that were really good are now reaching out and connecting with you, and it seems like you've increased your reach a little bit, and more people know about you, including the people you would want to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I won't get in too much into naming names or anything, but there's definitely been some big name traders that noticed or even followed or replied to me and interacted with me on Twitter that I never anticipated any of that when I started. It was really cool. Definitely one of the more fun parts of doing this. And times I got into even conversations with traders that I know have had quite a bit more success, that are much more well known than I am. And that's the cool part about Twitter, though. You know, you can just reach out to people and they'll respond, and it puts you in touch with people you wouldn't otherwise get to meet or interact with. And so, yeah, that was really fun. And I'm still in touch with some of those people, and not just through Twitter, but also through Traders for a Cause events that I've been going to this year too. And I've gotten to know a lot of good traders through that. Obviously, I was interacted with Nate and Lance a bit through here on Twitter, and everybody saw that. But it was really cool to meet those guys in person. I've gotten to know Nate a lot better. Um, yeah, all that is really fun, and it's really nice to have relationships like that with other people that are doing what you're doing, or something similar. You know, those guys don't trade like I do, but to have friendships with people that trade for a living is really nice, because it can be incredibly lonely to just sit behind your screens, and if you don't put yourself out there, nobody knows what you're doing. Like for the entire year of 2022, I didn't know a single other trader outside of my brother-in-law, because I taught him how to trade. But I didn't have any relationships with any other traders. And I was just I got myself into Investors Underground. I started chatting a bit in there, and then I'm out to Vegas, and you just meet all these people, and it's really nice. It's so much better than just doing it on your own, and just kind of trying to figure everything out on your own. Um, and there's still some of that, you still have to find your own way a lot. And um, but it's really nice to have people to kind of bounce ideas off of, and just to chat and know that they understand what you're talking about when you're chatting about trading. So yeah, all that's been one of the best parts of this year as well.
Now looking back at your trading goal, 4x in 4 months, what are some of the biggest contributors to your reaching that goal and reaching it quicker probably than you assumed that you would? What are some of the top characteristics or rules, mindset, anything like that, that you would rank as the top things that got you to your success for this challenge?
A few things. I think mindset's important. As far as that goes, I think my best trait is I'm very good at forgetting the previous day when I come to the market in the morning. It's part of the reason I like to day trade, and I don't hold anything overnight typically, unless it's OTC, but I haven't really traded much of those in a while. Um, it's just so much easier to come back to the market with a fresh sheet, like clean sheet, fresh mind. You're not thinking about the day before. It doesn't really matter how many mistakes you made the day before. I don't even think about yesterday. It's 5:15 in the evening. I'm not even thinking about this trading day anymore. And that's imperative. You can't, especially because in the beginning you're going to lose. Like, you're going to get your butt kicked a lot, and it sucks, and you have to just put that behind you and move on really fast. You can't carry yesterday's trading into today or the next day or the following week, because you're going to lose a lot, and then you're going to get down on yourself, and then it's like a self-reinforcing cycle. If you don't stop it as quickly as possible, you aren't going to make it. You have to have a short memory. And I think I've gotten pretty good at that. Just this week, actually, Monday and Tuesday have been two of the slowest days of my entire year. And then today's Wednesday. This morning I said to my wife, I'm going to go up there. I'm going to have a good day, and I'm not even going to think about those last 2 days. And I had a pretty good day. You just put those behind you, and just keep doing what you know works. So as far as that's, I think, my biggest strength in mindset. And then I cut losses really quickly, very effectively. I I base my entries off of levels that I know that I can risk off of, and so therefore I can have really tight stops. And because of that, I don't take a lot of big losses, and that helps allow for the big gains, or bigger gains to add up. Um, and then as far as what got me through this challenge, or what helped in these couple months, I was just really lucky to have a very accommodating market. I would say. I mean, it's a little slower now just since I stopped posting. It's actually slowed down a little bit, but the last couple months were very busy. I had a lot of good days, and there seemed to be pretty much always something to trade. So, I didn't know that coming in. The first week or two, I remember thinking, oh man, it's kind of slow. Like, I wonder if I picked the wrong time to do this in the summertime. I wonder if the summer's going to get slow. And I was actually kind of worried about that. And then things picked up, and then it was like there was more opportunities than I could even execute on in the first couple hours most days. So yeah, I got lucky with that. But that's just the cycle of the market. That's just the way it goes. It's going to be hot, and then it's going to be slower, and so those things all kind of aligned for in those last couple of months to make it easier. Um, to be honest, I knew that there was a good chance that I'd probably get it done within three months, maybe three and a half. I figured I was very confident I was going to get there in less than 4 months, but I didn't anticipate doing it in like a little over 2 months. That was a little quicker than I thought, but yeah, I got lucky. The market played along, and yeah, had some pretty good days there.
Is there anything that happened during the challenge that you weren't expecting, or was it pretty much, you know, as you expected? Did anything throw you off at all?
Yeah, not really. Nothing bad. The only unexpected things that happened really were actually good things. I would say the market being so good in August, which I guess if you talk to other long bias traders, I've come to understand that that's maybe not that uncommon. That August is being a pretty good month, but I didn't really know. In my limited experience, I wasn't sure. But yeah, that it was really just good things as far as unexpected things. There's really nothing unexpected bad that happened, and you could see that in the progress. I mean, it was pretty consistent. Yeah, nothing too crazy to the downside. I didn't take any really big losses. So yeah, all in all, it went kind of how I expected.
And so, Ed, what's next for you? Are you planning to keep your account size large and trade with the larger account? Or are you going to bring your account back down to a smaller size and rebuild it again? What's all of that look like at this point?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought too much. I'm not going to drop back down to 25,000. I won't do that again. Um, but I'll probably wire out somewhere here in the next month or so, I guess, because there's no reason to keep too much more money in there, so I can put it elsewhere. I'm looking into other trading strategies, and I'm going to put some money in a couple different places to practice other things, and um, you know, it's good to have some money outside the market helps a little bit just to feel comfortable knowing that I'm not keeping all of my cash in the trading account where it can totally be uh, lost. I can make some bad decisions and lose it. It's nice to have a chunk of money just outside the market where it's safe and it can pay your bills and you don't have to stress about that for a while. So yeah, I wire out pretty regularly, but I haven't had to in a while because I drew the account down so much to do this challenge that I haven't wired out, and I don't really need to right now. But I probably will fairly soon, just because, like I said, I don't need much more money in that account to execute my strategy either. So
Are you still planning to post every now and then your P&L or anything like that? Or are you going to just mostly stick to yourself head down at this point?
yeah, I have been kind of quiet on Twitter since I stopped posting. I do intend to post a little here and there. Um, I don't I don't think I'll post my P&L much more. I don't know. I mean, I think I showed what my trading strategy typically looks like, and I think there's enough sample size there, to get a feel for how profitable it is. I mean, you can extrapolate what I did over those couple months, and you can know basically what how much money this I've been making doing this. I mean, that was a pretty typical couple of months. So I don't see any reason to post P&L. I do want to post my thoughts on the market a little bit more, um, just in case, for anybody who's following along that's trying to trade some of these same stocks, or if anybody would benefit from just what I'm seeing in the market, I want to put those thoughts out there from time to time. And yeah, I'm looking at a few different things as far as places to maybe expand. So I don't see me posting too much on any of those things until I feel like I have something to share that might help.
Okay, Ed. Well, thank you so much for publicly sharing this trading challenge and letting everybody watch day in and day out. You know what your P&L has been and thoughts about the market. It's been really incredible to see, really inspiring, and I hope traders, are inspired by what you've done. It's been really incredible. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. Once again, I really, really appreciate it. It's been fun doing these interviews, and yeah, my DMs are still open. I'm happy to help, and I'm always in the room too to answer questions. If anybody's trying to trade these stocks and has questions, for sure don't hesitate to reach out, and yeah, be glad to help.
We hope you enjoyed this interview on the Investors Underground podcast. We have more great interviews that we believe you might also like, so don't forget to subscribe. You'll be notified of upcoming releases the moment they become available. Thanks for watching.